That does see the gray hair.
We're going hatless, folks. Welcome back to another exciting edition of Two Men in Black and White. If you don't sit down, man, I got an excitable dog over here and he's just losing his mind. Operation Spiderweb is what it's known as, and they're calling it, President Zelensky says, it's one for the record books. So basically, they were able to sneak deep into Russia, plant drones at some of the major air installations, and destroy hundreds of millions of dollars worth of aircraft. You gotta love it. But it gets even better. For the better part, let's go up to the Hudson Valley, just north of New York City. My man, BG, the Uptown Point.
Mark, I thought it was Operation Don't Tell America because we don't trust them.
Hello.
What do you know? We were the last to know.
Makes perfect sense. But Russia. You know, we're the only one that, well, 1/3 of America is the only one that believes that. And
Well, look, kudos to Ukraine for pulling it off, right? It looks like they did a lot of damage and really hurt the Russian forces. Fantastic. I mean, I start with a joke about it, right? Because I can't help myself. I'm just a born wise ass. But it's scary that this is the world that we're in. This is the world we created for ourselves in America, where no one's going to tell us anything. We don't have allies. Five Eyes are gone. We're not going to get a heads up. We're not a trusted partner in the world. And therefore, we are going to be left in the dark. In this case, we weren't a target in any way. No harm was done to us by not knowing. But there's going to be other instances where other countries are going to question whether they can give us a heads up on stuff. And there's no doubt we're going to be a step slow to a lot of situations because no one's going to share with us. And that's Gabbard and Hegseth and Rubio. Like, there's not a single person in our
crew.
Yeah, who's trusted.
Plus, you know, Trump is a Russian asset, right? If he wasn't, why didn't Zelensky give him a heads up? Right? I mean, folks, the math is not hard here, right? We already know you shook him down. That's why we impeached you the first time. The beautiful phone call you said you made. And like, he's operating as if he's a 2-bit mobster. And that's the sad part. You're not even good at it. Nobody's afraid of you. And for the Ukrainians, good for them. Good for them, because you know what? This was supposed to be in and out for Russia. Right? Their big, bad military machine ain't so big and bad. Remember, in the early days, it stalled and was not moving forward or advancing at all. And then they turned to war crimes. They started raping in the villages and the women and children, bombing hospitals. I mean, just out and out thuggery. And the vicious nature of the Russian attack, they deserve whatever they get, right? Like they deserve any and everything they get. And I hope the empire falls, and I hope somebody close to Putin, you know, ends it for us and fires, you know, that last shot, the bullet in the brain that ends it all with this guy.
As much as you said that, you know, talking about the brutality of the Russian forces, I think one of the things that you know, military analysts have noted about Ukraine's assault is how few, if any, civilians were caught up in it, how precise the attack was to military assets only.
Exactly.
I mean, Zelensky, I mean, he's clearly emerging as one of the great leaders of our lifetimes.
Right.
He's willed
the guy
from comedian, right?
Right.
You know, we can't always knock people coming from being entertainers from comedian to, like, you know, almost the true leader. He's almost the true leader of the free world, right? Because he has to walk the walk every day.
Right. And we got people here. We got morons here asking him where's your suit?
Where's your suit?
What do you mean, where's your suit? Where's your suit, you fucking clown? I'm leading a revolution, right? I'm taking on, you know, one of the largest superpowers in the world with no help from anyone. Right? And ever since they annexed Crimea, we knew they were coming.
Yeah.
We knew they were coming. And then, you know, Brock, here's the thing too. You know, nobody has any respect for us anymore. But it doesn't even seem like these yahoos care about America's standing in the world. And that's bothersome. right? That should be bothersome for the black and white community, right? Because we used to have juice. We used to be able to go where we wanted to go and be like, oh, America, I would like to come there someday. Ah, America, fuck you. Get out of here. We want no part of that nonsense you're dealing with. That violent ass country you people live in.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. I mean, the politicians on the right, like they've been so pro Russia, like you don't even know where they stand in terms of this attack. Like, but it's gotten to the point where like the rest of the world doesn't seem to care. Like, did anyone care globally what Marco Rubio's statement
Nope.
was today? Like, I just feel like they're just moving on without us and making do and trying to figure it out, right? And how to be successful with America as a key, key ally, key voice. I
Right.
mean, they still want our weaponry, but
And this is what happens, when you attach yourself to a shitty brand. Your brand becomes shitty. Like, look at Marco now. No one can take him serious ever again. You're screwed, bro. You better make all the money you can and get everything you can out of this, 4 years. If I don't know how we're gonna last 4 years with this fucking guy, but he better get everything he can out of this because I can't imagine he's gonna work again. Not in politics. I can't imagine him winning re-election after the. Have you seen some of these videos of these deportations? I mean, they are out and out disgusting. And now there's a video circulating outside of Miami courthouse where they're going into court for their regular immigration check-ins. DHS drops the case, right? Now you're in legal limbo, but you didn't know it, so you accepted, right, the fact that they dropped the case. You walk outside and ICE grabs you. I mean, it's the work. You got husbands and wives, children getting snatched outside of courtrooms on purpose, right? By design, with this whole
yeah,
family
you know,
separation thing again.
when I saw it, I was kind of like, you know what? It's kind of like they're getting Khashoggi'd, right? They're getting lured in
Yep.
to a bureaucratic process
Right.
in good faith under the guise that this is a step that they need to take in
Yep.
good faith for a certain outcome. Like, yeah, they're not getting chopped up and bone sawed like, or
No.
bone sawed like Khashoggi. But in terms of the trickery, right? The trickery that's going on, they're being lured into the process and then they're being snatched and deported and who knows where they're getting sent, right? So like we're like that's the American government now. Like that's how we play it, right? We're tricking people and snatching families when they're literally in the process of trying to do the right thing as per our rules, doing it the right way, and we're in luring them into doing it the right way, we're snatching them the wrong way without
Right.
due process and just, I mean, it's just, we're a disgrace right now.
Yeah. But remember, Brock, doing it the right way, you said there. You know, that's an internal battle within the Latino community, right? Because those who came here the right way, right, don't want those who came here the wrong way to be able to stay. That's what they voted for,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Right? Now hey, we don't care what way it is. We're snatching you up if you're brown, right? And so, these are the Trump constituents. I don't think people realize that enough. The dirty pool that he played. Remember, he went down to, Little Havana, walked into the coffee shop and pressed the flesh and, hey, I'm all for you guys. Yeah, until I get in office and then I'm sweeping you out of here like the plague. Right? And now he's blasted them off to these gulags in El Salvador, in Sudan, who knows where else, right? Those are just the places we know about, right? We don't know about the people because they're snatching people on the daily, right? This is a thing. So, for people who trust Trump, you get what you get, right? Because you should have known by now, right? Trump 1.0 was
Yeah.
bad
There's no excuse in
enough.
Trump 2.0.
Yeah.
Like the woman in Missouri yesterday, like oh, I didn't want it to be the mom in my neighborhood, right? Like that's one of the good ones. Like they get to play God on who the good
Right.
ones are versus the bad ones. And they don't realize the white supremacy movement doesn't want
Doesn't delineate.
any of you. You're valueless to them. You're in the wrong country and they're sending you back somewhere else. I'm just looking for more outrage. I think it takes more videos. We've talked about this before. America only reacts to like things they see. And we need some, visceral footage. So far, the footage has all been like heartbreaking. It
Right.
still hasn't been, really violent yet.
Well, the San Diego footage was getting there. The San Diego, I don't know if you've seen the San Diego footage. They went into an Italian restaurant, started cuffing folks and asking for a proof of citizenship.
Italians? They were cuffing Italians, meaning the guys behind the counter making the pizzas and they're shipping them back to Europe? Was that what was going on? I don't think so.
Well, the folks in there said, I don't think so either. And they fought back. They were throwing shit at ICE, backed them right off because the ICE unit came in 30 deep. And before you know it, you had a block full of San Diegans fighting back, screaming, yelling. I mean, you got to see this video, bro.
No, I gotta watch that one.
You
I
got to
assume
see
they
this
were.
video.
I assume all the agents were masked, right?
Absolutely. Masked with heavy artillery.
Where do they go back to and unmask and then come out? What do they like? Come out like Clark Kent? Do they come out in like little blazers and Izod shirts and penny loafers?
And
Like,
what's the purpose
like
of
what building do they come out of? Because I want to know. Like, they go in masked? Are they going in through a secret underground way?
right?
Parking garage so no one can see them, and then
I
I want to see some footage on these people going to work, right? Because they're not masked walking into the building.
why can't we get Christy Nome on Capitol Hill to explain, right, why you're going into a restaurant in San Diego? Now, San Diego, I'm sure, has its rough spots, but you don't need military artillery to go into a restaurant to demand citizenship papers if that's your true goal. Why? I mean, Brett, this looked like an army mission, like a military mission with the kind of guns and ammo and fatigue uniforms these cats had on. This did not look like, oh, we're just here to check and make sure everything's on the up and up. That was not what we were doing here.
No, this is this is the worst of what's going on because this is where due process has gotten thrown out. This is where rule of law has been, basically stiff-armed.
Right,
And this is where the administration has walked the line of fascism, right? I
right.
saw a great guy. It was a TikTok that was posted on Blue Sky of a guy comparing ICE to the Gestapo. And he
Mhm.
was listing all the things Gestapo did. And then in the end, he said, okay, now get in my comments. Somebody argue the other side of the equation. Because to me, the ICE agents currently are acting in the exact way that the Gestapo acted. And the only thing different is that they're wearing masks and the Gestapo didn't, because in Germany they kind of wanted the intimidation. They wanted people to be afraid and to see the agents. And here we have the agents who basically are ashamed of what they're doing.
Right. They've got to be. They've got to be. And here's the other thing, Brock. I always look for the black or brown agents, and I never hardly see any. I think I saw one at the San Diego family separation process. I couldn't tell because he had on like a polo and some jeans, but then he did yell at somebody to get back, and he got into the truck where they put the mother. But it reminds me, since you brought up the Gestapo, it reminds me of that very first scene with Shoshana and Hans Landa in Inglorious Bastards. When he comes in and he, sits down, has a cup of your delicious milk, and he questions him to find, where this Jewish family is living. And at the end, the guy gives it up and says they're hiding under the floorboards. The boys come in and finish off the family underneath the floorboards. And the actor, I can't remember his name, that played Hans Landa. Hans Landa was so scary and frightening. I could not imagine to this day. And I can't imagine why, number one, parents teach hate to their children. Number two, what it must be like to hate something so much, that you're willing to exterminate it on sight. Like I don't know where that kind of hate
Yes,
comes
like
from.
analyze that behavior. Like
Yeah,
what's behind that? What's in it?
right.
But people convince themselves, like white supremacy movements, Nazi movements, they convince themselves that they're a master race. Like, how did slavery happen? Like there had to be a race of people that felt like they were better than. They start debasing the humanity of others. They don't see them as humans on their equal, and therefore they treat them, quote, like animals. And that's the mental you know gymnastics and propaganda feeds that, and people get convinced of that. I always I mean, I kind of always wary of like how easy are you to roll along, right? You had to kind of feel that way to a certain extent, or does it work for you because it elevates you in society, so you're willing to punch down as much as possible?
Right.
But yeah, ice is a problem. Like that's our domestic problem. I mean, that you just hit the two big nails in the head, right? We got the international problem. No one trusts us, so great things go on without us, and there's going to be some bad things that go on that we don't know about. We're left in the dark on. And then domestically, we've just lost our way, right? We lost our rule of law. We lost our sense of fairness. We lost our sense of what, is American in terms of, how any person gets treated on our soil. Doesn't mean there's not going to be bad outcomes for people, but there's a process. So when the bad outcome is delivered, there's a societal sense that there was a fairness to it as
Right.
much as possible. I know we never really achieved that, but that's been the goal and the theory of the case of America, right?
Right.
The dream, the vision that Bruce Springsteen talks about, what
Right.
it was
Right.
what it was supposed to be.
Right. And we know what it is. And then on the black hand side, you look at the problems that Harvard is having and, the fact that these guys want to take over all these institutions and dictate what kind of, teaching they're going to be able to move forward with and what kind of professors, what kind of ideology. And, while Harvard is fighting back, they're kicking the black students in the face. Harvard has a black student graduation every year. Well, they canceled it this year. In the face of all that's going on, really, you just decided to kick the folks at the bottom, on the lowest rung, on the societal scale. But you know what? The black students persevered. Alumni, faculty, students chipped in. They got it done. Right? And Brock, there is the microcosm of what it is to be black in America. The whole country is ablaze. And still, someone has to throw another match on top of you and try to put their foot on your neck, even as they're battling the external forces trying to destroy everything the university stands for and make it into what they want it to be.
Because Harvard is worried that they'd look to DEI and they'd lose
Too
some of
woke.
their support, or too woke, or they're giving, quote, preferential treatment, or be reverse race. It's reverse racism to let black people celebrate their achievement. I
Right,
mean,
right. And look at the percentage of black,
what is it?
Ivy League,
Yeah.
yeah, Ivy League graduates. Come on. Really? We already know you don't want us there. And let me tell you something. In the last 5 years, since George Floyd, right? The problem at HBCUs now, obviously underfunding. That's still an issue. But we don't have space for all the people that are applying
Oh,
to
really?
these universities. That is, the good problem that these universities are having, the HBCUs are having. Happens at Clark the last couple years. I had a cousin staying with me because he couldn't get housing. And so it's happening at all the HBCUs because now black folks are saying, okay, I'm not a 5-star athlete, so why would I go to a PWI? Right? Why do I want to go there? My culture is not being embraced. My Greek life may or may not exist depending on the whim of the faculty and the administration, right? Like, how am I supposed to fit in? So a lot of black, especially in the South.
Yeah, I was going to say in the South, you're going to racist institutions where you're going. It's
Yeah,
funny how you said they're not the five-star athletes because, sports always kicks into my head immediately. And I'm like, damn, I wish a bunch of great athletes would go to HBCUs and go down and like kick Alabama's ass in football or something, right? That's a dream. We're maybe 100 years away from that
we're far
happening,
from that.
right? Right? Because they're like some of the worst schools in the worst places get the best black athletes
Right.
and get to run around like they're the best colleges because they, win football games and basketball games.
But remember what these black athletes are doing for them, right?
Now
It's
they're
the
getting
almighty
paid at
dollar.
least. Now they're
It's,
getting paid.
it's the almighty dollar. Just think, if you can give, a quarterback, you know, $1.5 million for this season, imagine how much you're making. Imagine what they must be making, right? And I keep telling people that, oh, don't feel bad for, the $100 million athlete, right? Because if he's making that, imagine
Yeah,
what the guy who owns the team makes.
the TV rights and just think of all the merchandise they sell, right?
Brock,
Through
there's so
sports.
many revenue
The
streams.
TV rights is so big.
The new revenue stream, they're retrofitting seats in stadiums now with the gambling box, with the gambling kit. So on the back of the seat, you'll be able to bet on how many batters get up this inning.
No, the gambling's a whole. That's a whole other podcast. The gambling toothpaste out of the tube is off the charts, and then they wonder, and then they have a little disclaimer at the end, right? Like, hey, if you have a gambling problem,
Right.
go see a professional. It's
Yeah,
like, oh, really? I don't know. Do I have a gambling problem? I just bet on every pitch in the baseball game and every shot. And like I have 30 prop bets going on the first quarter of game one of the NBA playoffs, right? Like, oh, do I have a problem? It's not a problem.
I don't think so. But yeah,
So
man.
it's not a problem until I go bankrupt.
Right.
So it's just fun and games.
Yeah. And, Brock, everywhere we look, we see decay in our society instead of growth. Right? All these other nations are passing us by. You go to Germany and take a look at some of the construction over there and the road, the Autobahn and some of the roads, the infrastructure, the safety mechanisms that they have, right? The bullet train from London to Paris, right? You're there in what, 2 hours or less. I mean,
We don't do big things. We don't have the patience to do big things. Maybe it's part of our system. No one wants to get primaried, so no one will step out of line, but no one will think about what's going. That's why the infrastructure bill that Biden pulled off was so incredible,
huge.
and why Trump talked about it all, Trump 1.0, and never did squat, right? Because like those are big things, long-term projects. But, why do we fail at climate change? It's too big. It's too esoteric. It takes too long to play out. It's too hard to do. So we fall back on simplicity. Luckily, corporate America has longer term plans, even though even on that front, they're judged quarterly and stock prices, and they got to report every quarter and live and die by the stock market. But corporate America generally has a longer term plan. The government is shitty at that.
Right.
And I can only hope that I'm just worried that Project 2025 is a long-term plan that has some people behind the scenes with the patience to pull it off. And which is why I told you, now that Musk is out of the way, who loved the limelight.
Right.
And now he's stepped out of politics. I've been pushing, and my statement now is let's start shining the light on Peter Thiel and this Russell Vogt, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, who's the OMB director, these puppeteers who are really the zealots, right? Zealots don't get tired. Right? Like bin Ladens of the world don't get tired, right? Like when zealots don't get tired. So, because they got this vision and they think the world needs to be a certain way and they're single-minded in pursuing that.
Right.
I worry about those people now having too much power. Thiel with Palantir, which is collecting data on all of us and is going to like know us inside and out and be able to restrict our movement and all kinds of like scary dystopian shit. And Russell Voigt, who's got that Project 2025 playbook that, oh, by the way, he basically authored. And he's sitting there going, yep, I'm going to work through this whole book.
Right.
And I'm going to change America. I'm going to change America. Right. So we got to shine light And we got to start talking about these people, and let's start hearing the philosophy behind what they're trying to do. I think it's going to scare most Americans when
Right.
they hear these fuckers.
Right. Right. And that's the thing we got to do. But again, who's going to do it? The fourth estate is gone. Right? The media is not there anymore for us. The media is there for one purpose, and that's to make money. And that's what they're doing because Trump is good for business. Trump is good for ratings because people are waking up and saying, hey, what this idiot do last night?
What do you say now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's this?
They're chasing down his Biden got shot in 2020 and he was a clone for the last 5 years story. And that's like, right, top page on Daily Beast and then, New York Times even. New York Times is still calling lies falsehoods, right? They still won't go a step and call a fucking lie a lie, right? Like they're still soft peddling all this shit instead of acknowledging that Trump's a fucking lunatic.
Right.
That he literally believes this fucking shit. And either he doesn't believe it and therefore he has no sense of what being president is and being the leader is. I don't think column A is correct. I think that's false. I think it's column B, which he's a fucking psychopath, psychotic moron in mental decline and reads this shit and believes it could be true and rolls with it.
Period.
But no one's writing the story that we just have a president who's off his fucking rocker that actually believes this conspiracy theory shit. So we know Trump can't really pull anything off, but guys like Thiel and Russell Vogt can. I don't know who's going to do it. Obviously, if that story was brought up in a 60 Minutes meeting, it would now get nixed by the powers that be because they wouldn't want to upset Trump. So you tell me what network, what feature, like who's going to really start digging in and shining a light on these really nefarious players who have a lot of power behind the scenes.
Oh, and let's not forget why they don't want to upset Trump, because they want a merger, right?
Yeah.
CBS wants to have a merger.
Money, yeah.
Yeah, so they can make more money.
Comcast too, right? She's starting of all the owners of these properties, like they're just
money, bro.
Yeah, they're just towing the line.
Money.
Right? They're firing who needs to get fired, right? They're just making sure everyone from top to bottom is towing the line so that they can maximize shareholder value. That's all they care about. Toxic capitalism.
Absolutely. Tomorrow we got to get into Michelle Obama and the backlash she faced on her podcast about women's reproductive health. We got to talk.
Whoa!
Yeah.
I'm not listening to the Michelle Obama podcast. Yeah. Just can you give me a teaser of what she?
Yeah. So one of the right-wing nuts had said something about, the beauty of reproduction that was a woman's gift. And Michelle Obama fired back, that's the least, of a woman's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a part of it. She's like, it's a part of the puzzle.
Exactly.
It's not like, it's not all.
The only thing.
It's not Handmaid's Tale. It's not like my only job.
Watch that first episode.
Funny you should say that. I'm on episode 2 of the Vietnam War documentary that you turned me on. So,
yes, sir.
Yeah, I love this shit.
Interesting.
I love the history of that. It's classic imperialism, right? The French were over there, and then,
Yeah, the French were out of their mind over there, huh?
Yeah, then they kind of got booted out, but somehow they convinced us that we had to be anti-communism. So they got, we started waving the American flag, and there we go. We were off to the races.
Yes,
but
indeed.
If you watch him, it's a tough one, man. You got 4 seasons ahead of you. Yeah,
wow,
it's
tough stuff.
All right, so we'll come back. I'll do a little homework on the Michelle Obama commentary. I wonder who she got the backlash from. It's from MAGA. You would just tell her to turn off the comments. Like,
absolutely.
Jesus Christ. I don't even listen to the MAGA shit that comes our way now that we're like.
I know, right?
Now that I've been deemed too woke.
Too woke.
Too woke. I care about deportations and I'm celebrating Pride Month with I want to see people happy and fulfilled. Sorry.
Hey, quick update. Diddy's former personal assistant was being cross-examined on the stand today. Did not do well. Diddy's lawyers went at her pretty hard. Talked about the $400,000 settlement as a parting gift that she got. The very over-the-top and lovey-dovey text messages that she sent to Diddy after they finished working together and after she finished working for Madonna. So her life didn't go into shambles when she left Diddy. And this is after he allegedly sexually assaulted her, not once, but twice. So some interesting happenings there. Day 14 of the Diddy trial. There's your daily update, Brock.
I don't see any way why she wasn't going to take the money under any scenario. So, like, why not cash the check if offered, right? Like, what was she going to say? No, 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 Diddy.
Yeah.
I refuse. I'm ripping up that check. That would have been a strong.
Yeah.
Well, I kind of feel like she was going to take the check no matter what.
And she says she has no plans to sue Diddy for sexual assault. Interesting day in court.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and by the way,
if it were televised, it would be the only thing America's watching.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's why there's no cameras in the courtroom, because
court. Exactly.
we would lose focus on fighting fascism.
No doubt.
If we were in front of the TV all day.
We need that like a hole in the head. All right, bro. Good
all right,
stuff.
Mark. Always a pleasure. Yes, I will talk to you tomorrow. We'll see if Ukraine has anything up their sleeve. Yeah, I just wanted to show the gray hair. I wanted to show everyone just, there's some gray hairs here. I've been around the block a couple of times. Just
look distinguished.
old gray white guy, man. No. I am privileged in society. I wear it like a badge.
All right, buddy.
Oh man, good
Always
to talk
a pleasure. See you tomorrow.
Right. Bye-bye.